What's going on, guys? CrustyKs here from the Go Boys Network. Excited to talk to you about this Wednesday college basketball slate. The good slates keep on rolling here. Absolutely the best time of year. If you're a basketball fan, college basketball fan, whatever it is, this is the best time to be a fan. So without further ado, let's jump right into this one. First, we're going to talk about here Ole Miss traveling to Arkansas. You get Ole Miss off that pretty convincing win over UGA. If you watched that game, it was actually pretty close up until probably like the last 5-6 minutes where Ole Miss kind of pulled away, made it look a little more convincing. We get Arkansas coming off that embarrassing Tennessee loss. They got absolutely strapped in that game. And we have Arkansas at home, laying 2.5 points against a ranked team. So what do? We all know this. It is the unranked home fave against a ranked opponent. So Arkansas minus 2.5 is the move. As I've told you guys before, though, for me, it always has to come down to the basketball part of it making sense. So, and it does here because you have Ole Miss comes in, and truthfully, I'm not really sold on their metrics necessarily. They've put a really soft non-con, and as a result, I think a lot of their defensive metrics are pretty inflated. I think Arkansas just in terms of offense is going to cause a lot of issues for this Ole Miss team. One of the more efficient offense in the country. Obviously, guys like Boogie Fland, an absolute bucket. And I don't think Ole Miss is going to be able to stop these guys consistently. I don't love Arkansas defensively. Definitely not a team that I love to lean on their defense. But for me, this game, just with the way these two offenses operate, I could see a lot of back and forth. But for me, it's Arkansas who, in my opinion, will be the more consistent team. It'll be a lot tougher for Ole Miss to generate stops, in my opinion. So Arkansas minus 2.5 for this first one. The next one we'll talk about here, USC traveling to Indiana. Indiana coming off a loss. USC obviously coming off a loss. For me here, I would wait to see the health of Malik Renew. But if Renew plays and obviously Ballo, I don't see how this game goes much different than Michigan versus USC. It's a similar mismatch where Indiana just has a ton of bigs and USC doesn't have the guys to defend that. Granted, I do think Michigan just is a better team. I think they're a better coach team, and I think that their bigs play better as a team. If you watch Indiana, it's a lot of ISO with Renew or letting Ballo try to go to work in the post, and it's just not it doesn't flow as much. This is probably, like I said, I'm going to talk about 5 games. This is probably the one that I would say is the one that's really a lean. I haven't played it, probably not going to play it. But assuming Renew plays, I like Indiana minus 6.5 at home. It's just a tough place to play. Assembly Hall, obviously a really tough travel spot too for USC. Coming off they just played 3 days ago, and now you got to travel, basically across the country, all the way to Indiana. I think it's a tough travel spot. Like I said, I think the matchup makes a lot of sense too. Just a tough spot in my opinion. So Indiana minus 6.5, assuming Malik Renew plays, will be a play. The next one here, we'll talk about Arizona State traveling to Kansas. Kansas in the last home game lost outright to West Virginia. Bounced back nicely against UCF with the largest win margin in Big 12 history. So coming off a game where they absolutely stomped UCF. Arizona State coming off a game where they stomped Colorado. So you got two teams playing pretty well right now. For me here, what I looked at in this one, and it's really how Arizona State gets their points. They're heavily reliant on the 3-ball. And then you take a look at Kansas defensively, and I mean that's really the kind of the spot where they struggle. So I like Arizona State plus the points. I think they can hang with Kansas here. I really just like to fade Kansas off of their best performance of the season. I mean, I think Kansas does win this game. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're dropping another game here, but I do think that they struggle to win this one by margin. So I like Arizona State plus 12.5. Arizona State's been a scrappy team all year. When they played Florida, I mean, that was a tough spot on neutral, and they got absolutely rolled. But outside of that, they've looked pretty good. They beat New Mexico, which is a team that I'm pretty high on this year. Hung tight with Gonzaga for pretty much the entire game until the very end. This is just a team that, in my opinion, while they don't have maybe the name recognition that a lot of people are used to, it's a team that has a lot of guys who do the little things well. And when you do the little things well, you're going to be able to hang in there with these tougher opponents. So Arizona State plus 12.5. It probably won't be a popular play. A lot of people are going to want to back Kansas back at home after losing outright in the last home game. And like I said, while I think they win, I don't think they cover this number. Arizona State will keep it close. The next one we are going to talk about, Texas A&M traveling to Oklahoma. So Texas A&M coming off that monster win over Texas. They won by 20. Oklahoma coming off that loss to Alabama where they got absolutely ran. So for me in this one, What I look at, and I mean, obviously the clear and obvious spot would be the Oklahoma bounce back. But for me, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me, simply because of the matchup. You look at Texas A&M and what they do well. They're a team that obviously offensive rebounds the best in the country by far, not even close. And you get a Oklahoma team who really doesn't have a ton of size in their front court. And if you look at the metrics, 303rd in opponent offensive rebound percentage. So they're going to have a lot of second chance opportunities, which is what Texas A&M lives on. And if you're giving them second chance points, like I said, they get to run the offense the way they want to. And I have a hard time believing that OU can win this game, even on their home floor. So OU obviously new to the SEC, and they played Alabama the first game. Now you play Texas A&M, which is a total change in just play style, tempo, pretty much across the board. And unfortunately for Oklahoma, I think these first two games are more of like a, welcome to the SEC kind of games, and they're going to drop this one too, in my opinion. Texas A&M, definitely a team that I'm pretty high in this season. They're not a popular team to back because their offense is just kind of ugly. I mean, if you look at like the metrics outside of offensive rebounding, effective field goal percentage like 250th. They're not a good shooting team, but they beat you because they get a lot more second chance opportunities than you do. They get to the free throw line a ton, and just on pure shot volume alone, they're gonna score more points than you because they're shooting a lot more than you. So Texas A&M here, like I said, Oklahoma, they were a team that hadn't lost until they played Alabama, and overall, outside of that Bama game and the 1-point win over Michigan, their schedule has been pretty soft. I mean, the win over Arizona, I guess, looks pretty good now as Arizona's starting to turn it around. But Providence, they played without their best player. Louisville, they played, I believe that was right after the injury to Keyshawn Pryor, or it might have been the Keyshawn Pryor injury game. So this is just a spot, like I said, Texas A&M, in my opinion, far more physical team, and I think they win this game on the road. So give me Texas A&M minus 2.5. The last one we're going to talk about, Yukon traveling to Villanova. Yukon, a 1.5-point favorite on the road. For me here, it's going to be Villanova. I still have not forgotten about how Yukon looked in that early Hawaii tournament. And I mean, obviously they're playing better. I do think that they are better than they looked in that Hawaii tournament, but I'm not willing to say that this Yukon team is what they were in years past. I don't think they have near the talent, and I think this Villanova team is actually pretty good. Eric Dixon obviously carries this team heavily, and that really is kind of what sold me here is who on Yukon is stopping Eric Dixon. You look at their bigs, Samson Johnson, Terrace Reed. Samson Johnson's skinny, more athletic, but doesn't really have the size to body up Eric Dixon. And while Terrace Reed does have the size, the athleticism is not necessarily there, and he struggles with fouls when he plays these more athletic bigs. So I really think this is just a brutal spot for the Yukon bigs to kind of like hang in this game. Wouldn't be surprised if they both end up in foul trouble. And then looking at Villanova as a team, like Wooga Poplar, I mean, this team has depth at the guard position. They haven't really had to rely on them yet, and I don't necessarily think they're going to have to rely on them here. The biggest question mark would be the three ball, because obviously Villanova heavily reliant on the three. UConn's been really good at limiting threes, but we kind of saw it in that MT when they played Memphis. Memphis was able to get off a pretty good amount of threes. I believe they shot like 22 threes and shot 50%. When they played Baylor on their home floor, I want to say Baylor shot like 36%, if I remember correctly. So a respectable shooting percentage from three, and they were able to get off like 17 of them. I did see against DePaul, UConn was able to limit them to like only 12 three-point attempts, which is pretty surprising because they're a pretty high-volume three team. But for me, I just don't think DePaul's that good. I don't think they're on like the same level. And so I think that was why, just like from a talent standpoint, UConn was kind of able to overmatch them. Here, Villanova, in my opinion, is on the same level, maybe even a little bit better than UConn this year. And seeing them at basically a pick 'em, I'm going to take a shot here, like I said, on Villanova plus the 1.5. I wouldn't be surprised if this one flips by the time this is posted or by the time the game starts. I really like Villanova here. I think they finally get one from UConn, a team that obviously has dominated the Big East for a few years now. That does conclude the Wednesday slate, though. Hope you guys have been enjoying these videos. I will have recaps, like I said, all the games are on right now, so I'm kind of can't recap anything at the moment. But we will have recaps. I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos. We had a crappy day yesterday. I think I'm at full faded, truthfully. I think I went 0-3. So hopefully bounce back with the ones that we got going today. And yeah, as always, you can get all my official plays at goldboys.com. If you have a gambling problem, don't want to hurt a gambler. Thank you guys.